Hello, and welcome to the My Empty Hands podcast, where we have conversations about Kempo and learn about practitioner's journey. I'm Reggie Darden, and I have with me Scott Marker, a high-ranking black belt in Kempo, and we're just gonna have a little chat and just talk about Kempo and whatever else happens to come our way, and we'll just kind of go from there. Just to kind of give a little bit of my story. I originally started in Kempo in the mid 90s, I guess probably around 93, 94. I started at a school that we called it Chinese Kempo. I like to think of it as maybe a Ed Parker 1.0, but it essentially was a Tracy school. So I trained there, I guess about 3 years or so. Got about halfway through Greenbelt, and then I left for the Army. While I was in the Army, just dabbled a little bit in Taekwondo and Hapkido and boxing a little bit. After I got out of the military, I wanted to continue training, but couldn't find a school that I liked. So I just kind of did a little bit of practicing on my own. Then I got into doing capoeira, and I've been doing that for about 17 years now. As far as getting back into the Kempo journey, I found an American Kempo school here. I'm in Dallas, Texas. And I started, I guess, about two or 3 years ago, and I've just been really, really loving it. One of the big differences that I've noticed at the school that I'm at now is that really leaning into the Ed Parker principles and philosophies and that structure was really eye-opening to me. In my previous school, much love to them, but we didn't do freestyle, we didn't do the sayings, we didn't do the pledges, we didn't do any of the terminology. So I feel like now I've just gotten into so much more. I've gained so much more knowledge by the time I got to orange belt than I did being almost a brown belt before. So that's been really eye-opening experience for me. Just loving the training and loving hearing people's stories about how they got into not just Kempo but martial arts, and just love talking to people. So that's why I now have this podcast going, and just want to hear people's stories, and hopefully others will be able to get something out of this as well. So Mr. Marker, I will throw it over to you to just tell us how you got started in Kempo and when you got started, and we'll just kind of go from there.
Perfect. Thanks for having me, Reggie. This is what I love to talk about Kempo. I'm hoping today to bring some unique angles to it that maybe people haven't heard before, and then also some great stories from founding Grandmaster Ed Parker. And one thing I want to say up front, I like on social media stuff, I always put founding. I got this from Dennis, senior Grandmaster Dennis Canasser. And he said he likes to call him founding Grandmaster. So that's what I always call him out of respect. But to make it flow better, I'm not going to say, I'm going to say Ed Parker sometimes, and I'm not going to say founding Grandmaster every single time. Just that, no disrespect. Just want to say that up front.
No,
so
that's great.
I started when I was, I'm talking 7th grade, and there was a guy here named John Latourette, and he had like a 6-month introductory course or something like that. So I started with him. My grandpa took me down there, and then it just wasn't a fit for me. And again, I was, 7th grader or something like that. And then years later, I was at a tournament, and there was a guy there that was really good at sparring, and his name was Daryl Little. And I started under him, and then he actually ended up underneath another Kempo guy for a while, and then ended up going underneath Skip Hancock. And again, just like Skip Hancock, Grandmaster Skip Hancock. And so then so that's how we got, like in 1983 was the first seminar Ed Parker came here. And I think he came here actually for John Latourette. And so, but even though I was under him, that was just years before. And so Ed Parker was here and Skip was here, Daryl was here. And we were called Idaho Freestyle. So we were doing some of the forms and stuff, but we fought a lot. And he ended up being a full contact fighter. So our school, even at one of the seminars, Ed Parker years later said, oh, they're a fighting school.
Yeah.
They might not have the best forms, but man, they can fight. And so I like that. So that was kind of the background. And then Daryl ended up getting cancer, unfortunately, but he made it through, but it was rough. And so he left. And then Rulin Day, who's one of my good friends, he kind of took over the school. And then I kind of was an assistant instructor underneath him. And through that, we just got exposed. Oh, and then that's when both of us went underneath Skip Hancock. And Skip was, help Ed Parker proof his books and all types of stuff. And how do I know that? Because, which I'll get to, I heard Ed Parker and him talk about, hey, thanks for proofing that part. What would you think? And they talked back and forth. So Skip a lot of times would help proof a lot of his stuff he wrote. Anyway, so we went underneath him. And then I kept going to Ed Parker seminars every time they were around, and he just took a liking to me. And I think also I kind of, it was funny prepping for this podcast. I kind of went back and kind of made a list of all my stories and stuff. I'm like, wow, what an honor, Anyway, so I just have some great stories. So I started going down in 85, I went to the internationals for the first time, and we slept. I went with Skip, and then he had some other students, and his students. I was out of Boise, Idaho, and then I was his student, and then we had our school, and then he brought his students from Spokane, so he had some of them go down there, and then we spent the night on the Pasadena mats, and then we started kind of going over to help Ed Parker and his family kind of, I don't know what you call it, but bring out all these boxes in his backyard. And I mean, Elvis Presley's Cadillac is right off here to the right of us. And it was just, I mean, I idolized Ed Parker. So it was like, I was like a greenbelt or something at that time. And it just was just surreal being around his family. Hey, how you doing? His wife, Lalani and Beth and Ed Parker Jr. really wasn't around that much. He was at the internationals, but he just wasn't too much helping set up and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So, but through that, I did that 5 years in a row, and it was just unique. I'll kind of tell you a couple things. For example, one thing happened was one year, and I'm not sure which year it was, but he said, "Hey, can you do me a favor and go with?" And I think it was Darlene, but go over with Darlene or Beth, it was one of them, over to the Long Beach Arena and take pre-registration money. So I went over there, and I'm not kidding you. We had a little metal box, and there was so much money that I was stuffing it in my pocket. I'm not kidding you. It was mad. And he gave me a taser because he told me to watch over her, make sure nothing happened to her. He didn't say it. He just said it really. And I'm thinking, looking back, he should have gave me a gun. Yeah, it was just a different world back then. But that's when he started. There was those type of things that I was such an honor because he just had such faith in me. I idolized him. And so there's a story. And then another time, this was, I actually had to check the dates on this. This is probably in 89. Anyway, I think it was. Anyway, so again, he comes up to me, he says, "Hey, you going to do me a favor?" He said, "There's a martial arts movie star here." And he says, "I don't know if he can fight." And he goes, he can defend himself. Plus, I don't want some crazy person in the crowd going after him. So could you just watch him for me and make sure nothing goes wrong? I said, "Sure." So he goes over to him, introduces me to him. And then this movie star wants to go over and, hand out photos, which I have one of the photos, a black and white photo of the movie. And so I go, okay. So I take him clear to the back of the arena in the corner. So it's all, no one can get behind us. And we set everything up so that we had single file. Somebody could come around and get a picture with him. It was anyway. And then, so this, I'll tell you a couple other things, but I'll go to the end quick. Is I didn't know who he was, but it was Jean-Claude Van Damme promoting his movie Kickboxer. And so, and I talked to Dennis Ganasher about this, and again, senior grandmaster, but we talk all the time. Great guy. And he's if you want to get somebody about the history of Kempo, bring him on here. He's like an encyclopedia of Kempo. He knows everybody, everything. Anyway, he was there that time.
He's definitely someone that I definitely want to speak with.
He'll come on too. He's a friend of mine. He's a great guy. So, and funny as hell. And so, I would have someone come around, and a lot of women would come around, and he had like these denim jeans on and a shirt, kind of a Western type shirt on. And she'd say, "Could you do something?" And I'm at the table's right in front of him. He picked his leg up to his chest and shot it out, and he's hugging her. I'm like, holy smokes, that guy's flexible. And then, so we probably did that for, I don't know, close to an hour. I don't know what it was. And then they announced that Jean-Claude Van Damme is giving out photos and letting people take pictures. A freaking riot. It was just massive amounts of people. And this is where Dennis Knatzer didn't know the full story, because he was so proud of himself that Ed Parker asked him to go protect Jean-Claude. Not know, it was because it was chaos there. He called other people and they helped me out. And it was just a mess, because it was like women and children just all wanting his autographs. I mean, it was just chaos. So that was my claim to fame on that. That was like a great story there. And then, and then, so it was just kind of cool again, because I idolized him. And so there's just story after story. So like and then I'll get into some Kempo stuff, but just, these are some great stories of Ed Parker that are just, what a great guy he is. One time, we're getting ready for the internationals. It's busy as heck. Everyone's, before we go down there at his house, it's just a big, getting all the boxes done and running around. Doorbell rings, and it's Elvis Presley's fan club, bunch of women. And he goes, "Oh, I'll give you some time." So we're running all around like crazy people, and he brings them in there, and they sit down and just ask them questions about Elvis Presley in his living room or family room up there in the front. And so that was kind of cool. He had his cape there. I got a picture with that. Sunglasses are there. And then one time he said something about Elvis Presley, or I said something, and he says, "Oh, you want to see something?" And he runs upstairs, comes back downstairs, and shows me. I'm trying to think. I think the necklace was for his wife. It's in his book, his Elvis book. But anyway, he shows me this thing Elvis got him, and shows me all the Elvis just got him a lot of stuff. Anyway, so it's fun things. And again, I'm like a green belt, and he just treats me so nicely. One time he mentioned something, and the thing was with Skip, when I went down there, I was the consistent one, and Skip, but I was a consistent one down there, always helping out. So that's why I think, looking back, I think he took a liking to me, because I was helping him out, and his family liked me, and especially Bodie, his son-in-law, best husband, really liked me, because I collected all that stuff, and we would be digging stuff up, and all of a sudden there'd be a 1965, international program. He goes, "You want this?" I'm like, "Yeah." And then he took me up front and their house, and Ed Parker's house, and up front there, and because he knew I collected stuff, and he opened up this thing, went in there, and there were just stacks of magazines and programs, and and it was rotten. Some of it rotten away. He just kind of picked down a couple and goes, "How about that? You want that? How about that? How about?" He gave me a whole bunch of stuff, which I thought, anyway, I was just a big collector of him. So another kind of cool thing is somehow I brought up, I heard that he played an instrument or something. So he ran and got his ukulele, and I can't remember what Beth played, but he played it in his living room. And I asked Skip, like years later, I said, "I don't remember you being there." He goes, "I think I was sleeping." But he sat there, and it might have been someone else there. I don't remember. All I know is the way he played it was just, he banged he would drink and bang turn his hand over and whack it on the ukulele. It was just cool. Again, all this stuff, just fun stuff. Anyway, and so just, it really means like, so looking down here at the list is one time he said, "Hey, can you help me get ready to go?" And I said, "Sure." So I go up to his bedroom and he gives me his gi, his belt. And I've heard other black belts say, "No one could carry," they call him old man. A lot of a lot of people said, "No." And I'm not, because I'm still, anyway, I'm not going to say nothing to rock the boat, but I'm like, I carried it, and he put some shoes on and said, "Man, these are tight. Hey, you want to try them on?" I put them on. He goes, and they were a little bit big. He goes, "How they fit?" I said, "Perfect." He goes, "You can have them." Anyway, so it's kind of cool.
It's pretty generous.
Yeah. So, it just lots of cool stories. One time we were in the back, he was going to do a demo, and Mike Pick, Mike Pick was back there, senior grandmaster. Mike Pick was back there in the back. We were very back in the arena. It was me, Louis Marbach, and Mike Pick and Ed Parker. And again, I'm just, what am I doing back there? Just he asked me to come help him do stuff, and I just do whatever he wanted. So I'm in the back of the arena. No one's back there. And all of a sudden, I'm sitting there, and Louis Morbacher sitting next to me, and all of a sudden, Ed Parker just kind of drops back and then starts. And if you've ever seen that little demo thing, it's a Larry Tatum. He's on it, and then he's in the Pasadena school, and he drops back and does that form. I don't know if you've ever seen it. You got it. If you haven't seen it, that's probably yeah. He did something real similar to that. It was freaky, and we're sitting there, and he's going blah, 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 all this stuff, and nicking my freaking nose. And I'm like, and then he spun around and he went back over to Louis and did the same thing and spun back around, and then he tiptoed off. Who knows? He probably did it a minute or two. I don't know how long, but he did that, and he tiptoed off, and he goes, "I think I'm ready." I thought that was, again, it's all this again. I was someone who I just totally idolized. Okay. I got to give you two other quick ones, and then I'll talk.
Yeah,
I'll tell these stories.
Go ahead. Go right ahead.
So one of them was Skip Hancock and I were, again, I was just a little, helper, falling around, that we were up at his motel room, and he was getting ready for a seminar, and there was professional wrestling on the TV. So I was kind of watching it, and there was a guy on there that would do like a Star Trek Vulcan thing. I don't know. He'd like grab the guy's shoulder a certain way, and the guy would like, freeze up. And Ed Parker kind of looked at it and laughed and said, "Hey, that's crazy stuff. We should learn that stuff." So then at the seminar, he comes up to me and goes, "So have you got it down yet?" I go, "What?" He goes, "You've been practicing that move." I go, "The professional right?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "We got to get that down, man. That's a secret move." And so he goes, "Come on." And he has me, we start practicing that stupid move, and somebody got a picture of it. So we're both sitting there anyway, just crazy stuff that, again, I'm just a color belt, and he just took a liking to me. At the seminars, many seminars, he would say, "Hey, I need a victim. Oh, I need a volunteer." And he goes, "Hey, Scott." And he liked me just because I made him look good. I was a good body for him, and he whacked on me a lot.
Hey, nothing wrong with that.
So here's one. Here's one other one. How many people can say that Ed Parker asked them if they could go to a movie with him? They did me. I just called Skip up and just kind of talked to him about it, because I was making sure the movie, because the date, he passed away in 90, so I knew anyway. So I was right on the movie, because I was like, that was a movie. But anyway, so what happened is we like went to the seminar, and then went to a dinner, and then I don't know what they're going to do, sit around there forever or whatever. And I told Ken Martin, a friend of mine who is also the same color belt as me, and I said, "Hey Ken, let's go to I'm going to go to Total Recall," and they were all going to go somewhere. And Ed Parker goes, "Hey, can I go with you? I want to see that movie. That's Arnold." I said, "What am I going to say?" Right?
Exactly.
So he goes with us. So we drive him there, and everybody from the seminar is behind us. Going to the movie, and he said, and I said, "I bought popcorn. You want some popcorn?" And he's eating my popcorn. And anyway, it was, again, I'm just like, so there's all these crazy stories. So anyway, there's enough of those stories. I got, like I said, those are just looking back. I couldn't believe just how much faith he had in me, and trust. I he just for a short time, he had me hold a bunch of money. I mean, he had me do the night before. That was a ton of money. Trusted me with that. Trusted me with his daughter. Trusted me with that. And then he had me hold a suitcase, and it was full of money because of the anyway. So I'm just looking back, like, man, that guy. He was my idol. So one time, you'll like this. When Leilani was alive, he was like giving us orders. Some of Skip's students and I go, we need to get this done, get that done. And his wife goes, hey, he's not like, I can't remember. I don't want to say, I thought she said something, not bad, but because they were religious. Anyway, but she just basically said, hey, he's not your freaking boss. You don't have to do what he says. And we're all just going, oh, yes, our brains. Oh, yes, we do. So anyway, let me give you a fight story. I've heard a lot of fight stories, but I heard it from her who was there. So it must have been a long while back, but somehow, I don't know, talking about fights or something. And she goes, oh, I was one time when he got in a fight. I said, oh, what was that? And I'd heard this story, but when you hear it from someone who was there, it's a different thing. So they're driving down the road and this car swerving into him. And she said, I'm hoping, I can't remember what she used to call Ed Parker, but her husband, Ed, I don't remember, but she says, I was hoping he didn't notice. And he looks over and does this and pulls over she said a drive-in, but I think she means like a restaurant drive-in. It sounded like there's gravel there and stuff. And this is something I'd never heard before is, I can't remember how many guys there were, 2, 4, something, 2 plus, start getting out of the car. And Ed Parker starts to get out. And there was somebody one or two people, guys that were with him. And they said, hey, you need help? Ed Parker says, I'll call you if I need you. And gets out, hits the first person, and he drops she said it was terrible. He's dropped, just done. And then he went after the other one or ones, because it's been years and years ago, and kind of beat them up. And they waited around because the one guy wasn't moving. So once he started moving and coming back awake, he started cussing. And then Parker, and then Mrs. Parker saying, then you hit him a few more times. Anyway, so there's a kind of a crazy story of going back in there. So like I said, yeah, and yeah. So now we'll get into the Kempo stuff. My background on this stuff is that I followed. I was influenced by Senior Grandmaster Mike Pick. I watched him a few times and just watched him, the way he moved and stuff, and he really transformed the way I do stuff. But Skip, when it comes to self-defense and stuff like that, Skip and self-defense, I give credit for Skip because his students, they were the Flames at Parker's demo team. They were they were a next level on just accurate, not sloppy, just very accurate. And they inspired me. And then Mike Pick inspired me because he had like a different movements. He was a lot more about power. And so I wanted to kind of copy that part of it. And anyway, so that influenced me when I was coming up through. And I pretty much followed like Ed Parker's, philosophies and all that stuff, even though we were more of a fighting school. As I went along, we were trying to get the belts and all the stuff. And so much for that I have, look over there, that international trophy. I don't remember. I won at least, it's color belt. I won at least 8 times, I think 10. But over the years traveling, one of my family members, all the ones that were in the attic, they put them all in one trophy. But what I was most proud of is self-defense division, which again, I give Skip a lot of credit because the way they did I emulated the way they did their self-defense, and I got really good at it. And for 1 year, I'm trying to remember which year it was. 1 year, there was a bunch of people. A ton of people showed up for brown belt for self-defense, and I went first. That's like the curse of death.
Yeah,
that's a curse of death.
You don't want to go first.
And I won. And so then I think it was the next year, Ed Parker said, "Hey, you're gonna be doing, when you do self-defense." He goes, "I want to come watch you." man, the pressure was on. And so,
Yeah, I bet.
And so I won that year too. So I won 2 years in a row in the brown belt self-defense. And I was really, really proud of that, just because I never went down there. I went all 5 years. I brought home, 2-3 trophies every, 1 or 2, 3 trophies every time. I also think that kind of, anyway. So I doing all the Kempo stuff, and then I got my black belt, I think in 1992. And then I recently, last year, I went back and looked at my certificate. Paul Mills was there. He signed it. John Sepulveda, he signed it. Beth Parker was there because, Ed Parker had passed in 90. And so I was like, wow. So when I got I was always looking for, because I come from a fighting background. My neighbors were boxers, a boxing coach, and I sparred all the time. So I was heavily towards just, realism. You know what I mean? Being pressure tested. And so when he passed, Ed Parker passed, it kind of like, I don't know what it was. It just that then I kind of started looking around on my own, and in 93, I think it was 93, I had a friend that I was out looking, going to Wally J's seminars, and just trying to figure out just some other stuff to add to my game. And someone gave me Gracie in action tapes. And I watched those, and it transformed me. I went, I got to do that. And so I bought the basic tapes, and then in the UFC happened November of 93. And then a couple months later, February 94, my buddy and I opened up Inside Kung Fu. Closest Gracie Jiu-Jitsu black belt was in Orem, Utah, Pedro Sauer. And so I called him up, and my friend called him up first, and then had me turn it over to me. And he couldn't hardly speak English. And anyway, so I kind of started all that here. And then, so what I started doing and then that got me involved in MMA stuff here. So in the Treasure Valley, I brought, at least made it popular, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu here. No one was doing it. And on a big scale, I was going around to all the schools, having them come in there. So what I started doing was Skip Hancock he did them forever, but he could do these gatherings, and his students or students of students, sometimes from around the world, would come once a year. And I taught, he always had me teach. I started teaching at a brown belt. And I started adding in submissions. And then pretty soon I started teaching groundwork. And I actually helped Skip, I think in 99, basically go through me and a couple of my Rulin Day, my good friends, longtime instructor, and Joe Jones. And we kind of went through and said, okay, for a blue belt, what do you need for a blue belt? So we kind of, I told Skip, we're never going to get people to add ground in unless we force them to. And so to get your belt, you're going to have to learn this stuff. So we started introducing that, and basically it was just failed Kempo techniques, dance of death, and then they drug you down with them, So that's all we did was, so we just went, by the time you get to brown, you're going to roughly be a blue belt worth of material. And so I started teaching Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, some MMA stuff at a lot of the seminars, in standing up on the ground. Like for Kempo, for example, Joe Jones and I, it was early 2000s, we went back through all the hugs and holds, and then the attempted chokes or whatever they were, anything to do with that type of stuff, locking horns. And now we're doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for years now. So that's the challenge is some people, if you've been really choked over and over and over again, you can better defend it versus if you just pretend to defend it. And so we took the framework of like all the, hug, arms in, arms out, a lot of the Kempo type stuff, and added a little bit. We just took all those things and stripped them down and said, okay, no striking. We're going to do them just with leverage. And then we use basically Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and then we'd add back in the strikes and stuff. But the whole time here, and for the most part, people respected me. I got some pushback because Damon Tong, which is out of Spokane, Washington. I was up at one of his black belt tests once on the panel, and he said that he wanted to thank me for changing his martial arts.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, that's nice. I'm glad I did. I didn't. He goes, because I was at a gathering and Scott was teaching some grappling stuff, ground stuff. And me and some other people, he was a flame too. He started going, well, yeah, but we're going to pull your hair, poke your eye, kick you in the groin, blah, blah, blah. Mm. And I had forgotten this because I got some of these happen, not a lot, but sometimes. And he said, okay, come on out, Damon. Let's see what you can do. Go poke my eye and kick my eye. And he goes, Scott took me down and tapped me out. And I go, it couldn't have been that easy. And then I did it again. And anyway, but the thing that people don't understand is that I'm not anti-Kempo. I'm like, here's the deal is Ed Parker's teaching methodologies were brilliant. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of that was because he's very religious. He didn't, at least in the seminar stuff, I didn't hear him talk a lot. I mean, he did Jesus Christ stuff, but just not a lot. But the telling the stories and stuff like that, I really think he was influenced by that. And mm-hmm. he used to tell analogies and metaphors and to teach his concepts, both just concepts, thinking concepts, and also physical motion. And so all I did is say, wow, he gave me such a gift over the years. Now, Skip did some of that too, but focus on Ed Parker, because I just idolized him to death, is I would teach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and some other stuff using his teaching methodologies. And so I'm like, I'm not going to get caught up in I'm not going to get caught up in saying, oh, I have to do this technique this exact same way. I did them for mm-hmm. years like that. I just feel for me and some other people, I think this way increases your chances of success. That's all I used to do. And so, or there's like, for example, for years we did kicking set and stuff. And I said, what the heck are you guys doing? You got to kick something. So we started doing kick set and then doing with the bags. And then I came up with kick set G, like 1 and G2. And all mm-hmm. the first one was just kicking set on the ground. And man, and I had a guy that was Randy Anderson, who was a black belt in Kempo, and he was like one of the last guys that knew every single technique exactly the way it was and perfect, and he could kick like a mule. So he helped kind of us understand how the kicks change on the ground and how you can, the bases and how you can base better and stuff. So I got videos, and everybody wants to see videos on this. I got tons of videos, just looking videos of a lot of these techniques I'm talking about. Almost all the ones we added to the system are on there, and the kicking sets are too. And then my second set was, and again, we do them in the air, but then we do them with a bag, and it totally changes the way you do stuff. It just totally. Oh, yeah. In fact, Rulin said I trained some of the kids, and he said he couldn't believe how much better it was helping the kids standing up. It was because just kicking stuff. Anyway, so rather than, being negative on me, I'm one of Ed Parker's biggest fans. I idolized him, and what he gave me as a gift was teaching that how to break down things. And I've written 2 books. That's my last book behind me, and they're on marketing and sales. And I give him credit for me being able to teach marketing and sales the way I do, because it's using logic and break. And like, for example, I used to say sophisticated basics, but the sophisticated and basics so I changed it to refined basics. But I would tell people like I'd be training non-Kempo people, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu people, and other black belts and stuff would copy my teaching because they liked it so much, just saying, refined basics. And this goes back to my Kempo background. Refined basics are learning a move, and not learning 6 new moves, but learning 6 new details or 3 new details to a move you already know to make it better. And it's a whole, and all that stuff was heavily influenced by Ed Parker. So no disrespect at all, just because I chose to do other physical motion to handle confrontations versus sticking straight to the old stuff. So I don't, I did years anyway. I just so that's where I get. And then over the years, I had more and more people that at times were like pushing back to me, coming back and saying, hey, I really appreciate you, Scott, because you've helped me a lot, because by doing some ground, it's helping my stand up too, but by learning better leverage and stuff like that. So I don't, so that's kind of my a big piece of my background.
Yeah, that's something that, say what you will about the early UFC, and that, yeah, it was essentially a commercial for Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, but
Yep.
one of the things that, the big thing that came out of that is realizing that it's not just, one style doesn't have everything, and that, you do have to, modify and grow with the times, and be able to fight in the different ranges. And
Yep.
I love Kempo, so much, but it doesn't answer every question.
Yep.
The same with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, doesn't answer every situation, and you can say that with any. That's kind of one of the beauties of Ed Parker, is that he really was visionary in understanding kind of where things are going, and just this traditional whatever wasn't the answer to every situation, and could what makes a better fighter, better self-defense, and a better art, and was able to express that, and continually evolve the art. And it's always kind of funny to me about the drama over traditional, oh well, Mr. Parker wouldn't want Poe to be this way, or he
Yep.
would never. And it's like, the reason, kind of one of the reasons why he's so beloved, is because he was constantly evolving and constantly changing things. And not to say that just forget all the traditional stuff, but everything has its place. And that's one of the reasons why, like, I see MMA as its own thing, because it's lost some of that traditional, I don't know, respect, or the Mr. Miyagi lifestyle. Yeah. But yeah, you have all these different kind of arts mixed into it, but I don't see it as a martial art. I see it as a combat sport. And I wish that we would get a little bit more of that, I don't know, humbleness, or just kind of respect for the art and each other. Now it's just more about, oh well, I can beat this guy up, and it's like, oh, that's doesn't really, that does, in the that's, I would certainly like to see less of the infighting and whatnot. But we'll stay away from the drama and the politics. But
yeah, that's the thing. I was like, he was being a just a color belt and stuff. I kept out a lot. I just wasn't around the drama. You know what I mean? I heard Ed Parker say a few things to people in front of me, and I just never repeat them. And it wasn't bad. Just there's politics crap always going on and stuff. But again, I try to keep the positive side of things. And like, Ed Parker was always trying to improve. And so, all the positive sides of things, that's what I always kind of do for him and give him credit. Again, other people can say, oh, you should be doing this, Scott, or that, or whatever. It's like we can all have our own journey, but I give him total respect for the way I teach, and I can teach, I can teach Kempo stuff. I can teach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I can teach marketing, sales. And a lot of that's heavily influenced by just the way he taught. And then, like, for example, he named a lot of the techniques. You had to really know where they came from to kind of remember what they were. But I took that, and when I would teach at the gatherings, I would teach kids and adults, and I would have fun names for them, like backpack with Velcro, sissy kicks, kangaroo kicks, Superman, Spider-Man. I mean, I named a whole bunch of stuff. And then once I taught you the move, you go, holy crap, I get it. It totally makes sense why you call it that. And that helps, especially people just because a lot of people weren't, they did mainly Kempo, and they're just adding in some ground fighting. So I had to teach them stuff really quickly, give them the stuff that, that's the most important stuff they're going to remember. And so I even remember once when I had a guy that came in, and we did Kempo in the front, and then I did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in the back. And And I'd help out in the front sometimes. I had a guy come in, and I think he was a high school wrestler or something one time, but that was years before. And he was stretching out and stuff and watching me teach a kid's class before his class. And he said, "Ugh, this is depressing." I go, "What?" He goes, "You're teaching the kids the same things you're teaching me." Because I was teaching them like Spider-Man, Superman, all this stuff. And that same guy went down his first year, and I can't remember how many matches, but he got not 1 point scored. And I asked him, what did he do? He just said Spider-Man and Superman, all this stuff. Anyway, but again, all that stuff was from Ed Parker, just the way he taught and broke things down and used metaphors and analogies to teach better. You know, it's like they always say, you're painting a picture in your mind. And he was just, again, his teaching, that's what I focus on is his teaching methodologies were just brilliant. And so if you want to do Kempo exactly the way it is, then you better, you'll be able to learn it better if you follow his teachings.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I'm, trying to really just grasp everything, like I mentioned before, I'm just picking up so much more now because of the principles and the kind of the framework, as opposed to, I was, doing the techniques and, kind of doing the air karate, and I learned a lot, but it was just the how and not the why. And that's huge. And once you start understanding the why, it just gives you so much of greater understanding of how everything works, how everything fits together. One of the things I've really always loved about Kempo is that it's a great base for, connecting other things. Yeah, if you want to get in some jiu-jitsu, you want to get in Muay Thai or, whatever art. I was actually speaking with another guest, and I brought up dating myself the Panther Productions videos back in the day.
That is old school.
And
I forgot about those. Holy smokes!
Yeah, no. Me and a buddy of mine, those were our things. Anytime we could get our hands on one.
Man, that is the thing. That is like I'd forgotten about those.
But I remember watching a video of David German, and he was talking about combining jiu-jitsu with Kempo, and I'll never forget he added on some wrist locks and some arm bars to Flashing Wings, and I saw that, and that was like one of the greatest things ever. And so me and my buddy, we would kind of go off to the side, after class or whatnot, or before class, and we would just like, okay, here's, how are we going to come up with a self-defense technique against, a straight punch, or, okay, we got to grab, and we just try and find all these, kind of variations of how to alter our techniques. And it's just like, no matter what kind of style or move I saw in a movie or something, try and just plug it into Kempo technique, and it just always fit every time. And so I've always really loved and appreciated that, and it keeps me coming back to it all the time. So
yeah, and at one he did this a couple times. At one seminar specifically, man, it was years ago. So again, I was color bell or something, and he was like, I'm trying to remember if Skip was there too. I'm trying to remember. Rulin was there for sure. Anyway, I don't remember. I just know that he kind of goes, "Hey," because he taught something, and then everybody's practicing what he's doing, and he goes, "Hey," I knew it was Rulin, and I figured, "Come here," and then he shows us. Now that's okay, but here, look at this, and he's showing us little details how to make a smaller circle and stuff. I thought anyway that was kind of cool. Is it kind of like would show us little here's the base stuff, the everybody the base, and then he was always kind of sprinkling in little for the. And we went to a lot of seminars, so pretty soon again he used me a body a lot, and he just pretty soon a constant. So that was kind of cool. That again, I'm such a fan of his that whenever he did anything like that, I was just eating it up. And then I sent you a picture, and I actually hid it for years because it was back of when 35 millimeter cameras around and stuff, but the one kicking at me. And it was at Skip Hancock's school. And I am, and then anybody on this that listens to this, my name is Scott Marker, and go to my Facebook page, and I have like a tribute on there to Ed Parker, and I have just a lot of unique pictures of just behind the scenes stuff at the internationals, and just a lot of times I'd ask him, like, say, hey, can I take a picture? Yeah, you can take my picture. And I said, can you do something different? Because he would just do the same old pose every time. So he'd do something different. So I told you this story was great. So I'm in Skip Studio with a 35 millimeter camera. And I said, hey, can I get a picture of you? But could you do something different? He goes, yeah. Are you ready? And I go, yeah. And he freaking spins around and kicks straight at my face. And it's a 1 in a million shot. It took, I got his foot there, his belt's flying. I mean, it's just awesome. That was I got a lot of, anyway, anybody wants to have see some unique pictures and stuff, go ahead and check that out. But no, totally agree is that, the Kempo, again, I think people are short-sighted sometimes is that, again, if you're going to do Kempo and stuff, do Kempo and stuff. But again, a lot of the stuff he teaches can be applied, again, marketing and sales. That's, nothing to do with anything. The way, I changed sophisticated basics to refined basics, but still it's the same thing as it's just, taking a basic concept and then trying to make it better. And just anyway, and using stories and metaphors and analogies or stories, and metaphors are like, have abs of steel. And things like that. He did such a great job of doing that, because especially when you're teaching physical emotion sometimes and trying to get someone to understand, his saying, to hear is to doubt, to hear is to doubt, to see is be deceived, but to feel is to believe. And so sometimes it's just tough, without beating people up.
Yeah.
A certain way to do technique. But I'm telling you, that's something where, for example, I was always trying to. So, for example, thundering hammers. I got thundering hammers down pretty good, and I watched Mike Pick do it. It's like something's different about what he's doing, and I didn't connect these two. I'm not saying he even did it, but the one thing that I did is I had an 80-pound heavy bag in my garage, and I learned really quick that if you have your arm straight and you hit something, it just freaking kills your arm. You have to bend it. And so how did I learn that? Was by hitting something. Exactly. And so, something hard. And again, you got to be careful with your partners. You know what I mean? You can't beat the crap out of your partners and stuff. So anyway, so I encourage anybody in Kempo to, open your mind a little bit and stuff, but also try to incorporate like bags and stuff. And some people are probably doing it, but we were doing it way back. Back in like the late 90s, is that doing 5 swords or whatever technique you're doing, have the person hold some mitts so you can hit them. Practice on them, but then hit it anyway. And again, it will. Ed Parker saying, "Feel is to believe." When you actually hit something, kicking set. If you're having your students practice kicking set, okay, that's good for form and stuff but have them practice on a bag. It will help them adjust what they're doing, so that when they do spar and they want to kick somebody, it'll be a lot closer. Anyway, so
I agree wholeheartedly. I just took my green belt test, and
congratulations.
I've been doing this for a while now, and you think you have a pretty good grasp on it, but then on the test, I had to do all my techniques on a live person. And it's like, I got, raking mace down to no problem. And then not doing the air karate. Then it's like, oh, wait a second. This is a lot different than I played it out in my head, so that's been a real change for me, and real eye-opening versus my previous training was that, doing it on a person is very, very different. And you really don't get the same understanding of the mechanics of a technique until doing it on a person. So
but you do I say you do
that more.
Yeah, I say you do both. On the green belt, let me tell you a quick story on that green belt is I was a body for a brown belt test. I don't remember, this has been so many years ago, and so I was I was a body and did and then they had me do some stuff, forms and all that type of stuff, and then we got done with it. He came out. And he I was a blue belt. He awarded me a green belt. He said I looked super good. And anyway, so
Excellent.
that was probably one of my proudest times is when he promoted me because he wasn't my instructor. Skip was,
Mhm.
but Skip was, Skip was a student of Ed Parker. But I'm sure, if Ed Parker tells Skip, hey, I think we need to promote Scott, Skip would have said, okay. You know what I mean? Anyway, so that was so my green belt. So I have to look at the certificate too, because I'm one of those pack rats that
Mhm.
I kept every single certificate. I have every belt and every certificate, because some people skip a lot of his. Even though I was a Skip student, but I wasn't directly there. I was kind of indirect student. Some of his guys used to dye the belts, but I actually kind of stayed with what Daryl used to do, which is every belt you got. You got a new belt every time you got promoted. So
Mhm.
I was out in my shed and I was like, open up this box and all my martial arts weapons and stars and all my belts are in there. And I'm like, wow. So it was kind of cool because I hung them all the way up, yellow to black. And and that on the black. And this I got from Mike Pick is, and again, I know him. He probably wouldn't know me, but he heavily influenced me just on his motion and stuff like that. But one thing I liked that he did was maybe now he's doing something different, but not when he was coming up, is that he didn't wear any stripes on his belt. So when I got my black belt, I took off my stripes, and I've been promoted several times since, and I never put. So he influenced me. I don't know why. I just never wore stripes. I didn't. I was focusing on being as good as I could be and as good as an instructor as I could be. And sometimes I thought, I don't know, sometimes people got caught up too much in their rank. So I thought, I'm just going to put it aside. And again, overall, I'm really lucky because I just didn't get a lot of politics. I mean, it was wonderful. I mean, just in my own little world. Go up there and train, and and so like I said, he like him and his family were just super cool to me. I can't thank. I mean, I appreciate this because going back through, it was such an honor that he did so many things and trusted me so much. And again, I was just a little old, green belt. And he just trusted me so much.
We all got to start somewhere, so that's good.
I really wish I would have. I really wish I could have got my black belt underneath him. So I was really bummed out that he passed because I wanted to. But then it was cool that Skip got all those high-ranking black belts together, and even Beth there and his daughter, one of his daughters, Beth there to kind of be part of the whole thing. So that was kind of cool. And at the time, I knew John Sepulveda because he actually lived down. He lives here again. He lives here, and we had lunch a few months ago because I had someone posted. Skip has Ed Parker photos. Skip, I didn't know Skip did it till yesterday, and he has all these photos of Ed Parker posted there on Facebook. Lots of cool photos, and there was it's after he passed away, but internationals like program, and John Sepulveda and somebody else is on the front, and I said, hey, I got one of those, and John said, I gave my copy to Skip or something, and I'm like, anyway, bottom line was I told him, I said, hey, come over and let's go to lunch, and I'll give you the program. So I gave him the program. Anyway, but it was kind of cool because then, anyway, it was what a respect because I got he was there, he signed off on it, and Paul Mills signed off on it, and then that's when after that I kind of watched Paul Mills, and it's like, I don't know if you've ever seen Paul Mills when he was alive, but man, he was like explosive. Did you ever watch him?
Yeah. I've seen some of his
stuff. He was a different level when it comes to the power. I don't know if you've ever seen anything of but the fast draw. But if you go on, he was a fast draw, like one of the top in the nation and all this stuff. And he was up at Skip's once for a seminar, and Ken. I don't know. I'm not gonna. He explained why this technique worked, and he hit him in the stomach before he chopped him in the neck. And I mean, it was like, poof. I mean, it's so fast. I mean, he would go up, right? And they go down and hit him in the stomach and then go back up and chop him in the throat. I mean, it was like blink. And I'm like, holy smokes. And, a lot of times people are in Kempo are really fast, but they don't have any power. And so Ken Martin, he had this philosophy that he pulls it so fast that it pulls your blood. I don't know if that's true or not true. I just know it's supposed to make you sick and all this stuff. And so Ken's going, and he goes, anybody want to feel it? And Ken goes, I'll try it. So he does a technique, and it's blinding fast. But not just anyway. And Ken then drops to one knee and just said he said it was weird. It wasn't like he got hit but it made him sick to his stomach. Anyway, so yeah. So Paul Mills, I was fortunate to have those type of people.
Good deal. All right, so to kind of close things, got a few I don't know, little fun questions to throw at you. One would be a favorite technique, or if you can't pick one, maybe 2 or 3 of your favorite techniques.
Well, in the olden days, Flashing Mace was the one that I thought was so cool because he did a variation of it in Pink Panther, one of the Pink Panther movies. He did it, but he hit him low. So that was one of my favorites. Thundering Hammers I liked because of Mike Pick, Senior Grandmaster Mike Pick, and but I liked real simple ones later in life because I'm like, if I got an altercation, Mace of Aggression, I'm telling you, I because of Mike Pick's influence and stuff, and Skip too, is that I could hit really, and I practice hitting a bag. Just the hey, I don't want to fight, and then I mean, that's probably one of my favorites because I got it down to where I really, if I got an altercation, I really felt that I could put the one whack, and then I could do the rest. But just that one initial move, I would be definitely in the winner's seat.
Gotcha. Next one would be, do you have a favorite form or set?
I actually stopped doing the forms. Once I got in a black belt, then I kind of dumped them and I stopped doing them. But I always liked short form 1 because I did it with strikes, and so I would and I would do it like moving forward, not back. So I do it backwards and forward. So I kind of changed the variation. I kind of modified short 1 a lot and taught it a lot of different ways. So that was one of, and I did all those other forms. But that was one of my favorite ones because I thought those basic movements, I could strip them out and then teach them like how to hit people with them, be offensive versus defensive.
Gotcha. Okay. And then last one, if there is someone that you wish that you could have trained with, whether they be currently alive or dead, or fictional or non-fictional, or maybe even possibly somebody that you have actually trained with before, like who's somebody that you wish you could train with?
Man, I'll tell you, I just, Paul Mills and Mike Pick, I would have liked it. I mean, I went to seminars with them, but I never really trained. Either one of those two would have been fun just to kind of see if I could pick up different ways, So those are two that just when I watched a lot of people work on bodies, and those two people, a lot of people work really fast, blah 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 blah, and the guy just stands there. But I watched both of them; they could like move a guy's body. I mean, with the power. So probably either one of those two would have been fun to work out with, just to see if I could, add more to my game.
Awesome. Oh, thank you so much for your time and your stories. And
no, I really appreciate it, Reggie. And again, I hate to dump all the stories on you, but it's like there's so many unique stories that I just like haven't really talked about a lot of them. I mean, to one-off to people, but never. And just what a wonderful person he was, and a lot of his family.
Yeah, no, I love the stories. I love hearing them, and my wish is for this, to be a platform for people to share the stories, and something that I definitely want for this is to kind of get the wide spectrum. I mean, obviously I'm going to try and get, the OGs and the kind of people
Dennis
that you
Knatzer is an
expect.
OG. He's the I won't get too much in this. I had some stuff that Skip gave me that had like history. I mean, just like association that made Ed Parker a master, and I'm like, holy smoke! I mean, not that just anyway. And I call up Dennis. Holy smokes, that guy again. He's an encyclopedia. He just anyway. Yeah, so I encourage you to get him on because he's like
I'm definitely going to reach out to him.
and he was an international champion. He fought a lot, and yeah, he just brings a lot to the game. And he's a Kempo. He's a Kempo. I mean, he bleeds Kempo.
So. I like it. Okay, well, before we wrap up, is there anything else that maybe you wanted to throw out there? Or
no, I just want to thanks for the opportunity and thanks for just sharing. Let me remember again how lucky I was. I really was. I was very lucky. Right. I know a lot of people that never got to work out with them or train with them, and I just like I couldn't. I feel this privileged.
All right. Well, thank you so much, and
thank you.
We will talk again soon.
Awesome. Thank you, Reggie.
Thank you.